Thank you, Chair. And I just want to start off by saying thank you sincerely to the witnesses, Mr. Faulkner and Mrs. Whitman, for your opening remarks. They're very, very powerful and very emotional. And I think all members of the committee can agree, we very much appreciated them. I have a number of questions for you, Mrs. Whitman. I hope we can fit them all in. Mrs. Whitman, I am the Shadow Minister for Diversity, Inclusion and Youth. My counterpart is Minister Chagger. Over a year ago, the Liberal government announced the Anti-Racism Secretariat with the mandate to help end systemic racism in our institutions and inform all government departments of how they can combat this, essentially. And so that was well over a year ago. We know that it's been in working order since at least June from the minister's remarks. Can you tell me, Mrs. Whitman, I mean, you represent the Native Women Association of Canada as their president. It is the most prominent advocacy group in Canada for Native women. Have you been contacted by the Anti-Racism Secretariat or Minister Chagger's office within the past year?
Not to the best of my knowledge, but we are still moving forward, with the systemic racism. We are trying to do the best that we can to be able to work with the violence that's occurring in our communities. And we know that systemic racism is there, and that's why we're supporting Chantel Moore's mother in using her, her death, which is very unfortunate because it was just a health check. Yeah. And how can this be? It escalated into 5 shots of a young Indigenous woman for a health check, and we need some changes, and we need them done now. That's why the national inquiry needed to be, to be given the day it was supposed to have been addressed by the ministers, and yet her death occurred the day after the anniversary of that.
And actually, that leads in really well to my next question. On June 3rd, you had released a rather scathing report card of the Trudeau government regarding their response to the National Inquiry for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, which we know was released over 14 months ago. And my understanding is the Liberal government was supposed to release a strategy implementation plan, and they have not. And I have seen your comments in the news about, enough consultation, time for action. Can you just comment for the Liberal members of this committee and for all members of this committee, what do you want to see in this strategy plan if it ever does get released by the government?
Well, first of all, I want to be able to, have them to be able to correlate with us, to be able to include us at the tables when anything's being done. It's been told in the history that we've always been the problem. We know we've never been the problem. But you know what? We can be a solution to the problem. And without us being at the tables, being there to support our women, our girls, and our gender diverse and the communities, it's not going to change unless we're there. And we need dollars to be able to support. We have, our staff, we are short staff in those areas, and it's impertinent that the dollars be able to be here as well, so that we can do an effective, efficient job for our women, our girls, and gender diverse, and Canada as a whole, because after all, we are all treaty people.
Very well said, Mrs. Whitman. Thank you for those remarks. I appreciate them. And I'm sure all members of the committee have heard them, and I hope that they're taken back to the ministers responsible for releasing the strategy from the Liberal government. My last question is about human trafficking. We know that this government has cut resources to several human trafficking facilities in Canada. I know that we see indications that Indigenous women and girls are more likely to fall victim of human trafficking. How can we better resource Indigenous communities to stop women and girls from being a victim of human trafficking? And how can we also better staff our police to get women out of this horrendous industry?
I'm not sure, when we look at the human trafficking, we have to look at where it's coming from. We look at our women as being very vulnerable. So do we put the emphasis on them? No, we need to be able to give them support. These are, we have these camps. And our women are taken, trafficking in these camps. We need to give our women resources, but we have to educate all of these, conglomerates, the mining fields, all of these areas, so that they will be able to be also involved, because without them being involved, it's still going to continue. And I don't think we need to put that emphasis and that heartache on our women more, because these are the vulnerable ones, and it's up to us to be able to solve it for our women, our girls, and gender diverse.
Very well said. I agree. And I think all members of the committee would agree. We need more resources for these facilities to better support Indigenous women and girls. Thank you, Mrs. Whitman, for your candid remarks. Appreciate